Well, America's newest museum, and perhaps it is its most awaited, has hosted thousands of visitors since it opened last year. People from around the world are flocking to the National Museum of African American History and Culture. VOA was given special access to the massive facility. Africa 54's Hayde Adams Fitzpatrick takes us on this very fascinating walk through time.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "We are not the makers of history, we are made by history." We're here at the National Museum of African American History and Culture. This building, 100 years in the making, was designed by David Ajayi, an architect with East African roots. But he says he was inspired by the people of West Africa when he designed this building. We're going to take you inside, where we will meet John Franklin. He's the Director of International Programs here at the museum. He's about to take us on a remarkable journey and show us the stories that have made the experience of Africans in America so extraordinary. The museum, in great detail, chronologically explores the complex story of slavery and freedom. John Franklin, the museum's Director of International Programs, specializes in the history and traditions of the African diaspora. He says the stories of slavery require the unvarnished truth.
The premise of the museum is that you're looking at American history and culture through an African American perspective and an African American lens.
The journey of slavery in America begins in Africa, where people were snatched from their homes for the brutal transatlantic slave trade.
Many people from all of these regions were taken by the hundreds of thousands, by the millions. We estimate 12.5 million being brought across the Atlantic between 1500 and 1867. Only 5% of those come to the United States. Approximately 1 million go to Jamaica, 1 million to Haiti, 1 million to Cuba, 6 million to Brazil.
But how captured Africans were taken to the Americas tells its own horrific tale. The imagery is powerful, seeing the actual whips and shackles that were used to imprison Africans and traffic them to slavery in the New World.
Here you have the kind of restraints that were used for adults at the bottom and for children at the top. See, those are for very little hands.
In this exhibit, a great irony about the founding of the United States is laid bare.
So on the back wall here, you have all of the documents founding America. The Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. So we have Thomas Jefferson here, who's known for having written the Declaration of Independence, but having been a slave owner as well. So he is promoting freedom, but being a slave owner. And behind him, you'll see bricks with the names of some of the 600 people he owned during the course of his life.
The global movement to abolish slavery did not end black exploitation in America.
When the trade ends and you cannot bring any new Africans here, the Africans who are already here then become valuable to help build and develop other parts of the country.
35,000 artifacts from around the world were collected for this museum. Here, an auction block where slaves stood to be bought and sold. Nat Turner's Bible. He led a slave rebellion in 1831. And Harriet Tubman's shawl. A former slave herself, Tubman ushered others to freedom on harrowing missions from safe house to safe house on the so-called Underground Railroad. America's economy and its capital were built in part on the backs of African slaves.
Where we're standing were plantations before this was decided to be created as the city of Washington. And then the prominent buildings of the city are built with slave labor. The Capitol and the White House are among those.
It took a civil war to bring this chapter of American history to a close. U.S. President Abraham Lincoln declared the slaves to be free in the rebelling states, and Congress amended the Constitution to outlaw slavery and ensure that Africans in America could stay. Hayde Adams Fitzpatrick, VOA News, Washington.